Okay, getting everything set up and ready to go. Just started Rumble Studio. Getting ready to, or waiting for uh, Beam to fire up. Looks like it's going now. All right. So it looks like it is up and going. Let me go and check the live stream, make sure I can hear my voice. Sounds good on Beam. Mute that out so I don't make too much of a noise. Now I'm going to go on to Rumble, check out my live stream there as well. It has not kicked in yet. Let me hit refresh. Maybe that's something that I have to do. Oh, that's probably because that's not. Oh yeah, that's what it was. There we go. All right, that's going. So now I'm going to X, checking X out. X sounds good. DLive is up. DLive sounds good. Twitch sounds good. And now I'm waiting. There we go. It looks good on Kick. Let me go to dashboard too. That way I can just keep it down on dashboard and go from there. Now I'm checking on YouTube as well. YouTube is sounding good. All right, so everything seems to be working. It's pretty cool, kind of, because like the setting up is a lot quicker, it seems, than what it is on my OBS. Though I'm not going to say that it's better than my OBS because there's a lot of things you sacrifice with it. But okay, so we have another 8 minutes, and that's going to give me some time to go get my quick smoke in, and then I can get some coffee and use the bathroom, be ready to start the stream. Today I'm doing strange stories, and it's going to be good. It's going to be about the reptoids, guys. Now this, and I want to say this, well, I'll go ahead and just wait until I get the stream started before I do say it, but I will be back. What I'm going to do is put some groovy tunes on for all y'all cool kids. Let you watch or listen to it. So
long before the rivers knew their name, before the mountains whispered flame, a voice was born, a tongue untamed, a song that time could never claim. spoke of gods of form and might, of fate and fire, of death and light. A horse of wheel home in the dust, a people embarked with fate and trust. Through step and storm, through sword and rust, their echoes rise, speak through us. So speak and let the first words fly, let roots take hold, let stories rise. For though their lips have turned to stone, the first time sings, we are not alone. Long before the rivers knew their name, before the mountains whispered flame, a voice was born, a tongue untamed, a song that time could never claim. and let the first words fly. Let roots take hold, let stories rise. For though their lips have turned to stone, the first hymn sings, we are not alone. Long before the rivers knew their name, before the mountains whispered flame, a voice was born, a tongue untamed, a song that time could never claim.
Okay, I am back. I am ready to go. So let me find out how far along we are here. See if my voice actually. Okay, so I checked the audio, it's still good. So it's time to get to the show. Now, like I said, today is going to be a good episode. It's about reptoids. It was interesting because the other night um, I was on the show and we were talking about the subject or a subject concerning ufology, and reptoids came up. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, before we get started, I was going to say this before I started, but I figured I'd do it now since I started doing the show. Now, reptoids also have a lot to do with ufology. There's a lot of stories, and I'll get into that towards the end of this. But what I want to say is that even though it does pertain to the world of ufology, I'm going to stick to just the reptoids because there's different people with different ideas about reptoids, just like everything else. Some of them believe that they're like alien species, and some people believe that they're just ancient creatures that's been on the earth since the beginning of time, and then there's some people who believe they've been on the earth since the beginning of time and they're aliens. So you have a whole different perspective on that. Right now, I'm just going to go over reptoids and what reptoids are. So I'll kind of get into uh, reptoids and stuff and discuss that as well because um, it mentions a couple of things that I do want to go over later on with my series, Everything About Aliens, and that's when I want to actually get more into this subject uh, rather than to do it on here. But you never know, you know what I mean? Now I'm on Strange Stories doing reptoids on WWOW Talk. I just went over the Nagas. So it may be just something that I have to do. I've been holding off on doing those episodes for a while now. So I may just go ahead and get into this subject. I don't know. So with that all being said, I am just going to get on with the topic. The topic is on reptoids. Now, when you start discussing reptoids, you have to go back to the beginning where it all began. And the story begins with a guy by the name of George Warren Sheffield, or Sheffield. Uh, Now, he was born on August the 11th in 1886 in Waterville Township. That's in Lucas County, Ohio. His parents were Warren William Sheffield and Martha Alice Ulrich. Now, on January the 19th of 1912, he ended up marrying Glenn D. Murphy in Des Moines, Polk County, Iowa. Now, after that, in the 1920s, Sheffield relocated to Los Angeles, California, and there he worked as a mining engineer. Now, this is in the 1930s. Afterwards, like 10 years later, this is the time period where he started gaining attention. And that's because of his claims about an underground city that was supposed to be beneath Los Angeles. And this underground city was supposed to be inhabited by an ancient race that he referred to as the lizard people. Okay. Now, from what I found out, he never mentioned anything about aliens or UFOs or anything like that. He just referred to them as lizard people who lived under Los Angeles in underground caverns and that had tunnels and stuff like that. Um, Now, uh, like I said, they were called the lizard people. Now, he also asserted that he had created a device that he called the radio X-ray. Um, he, uh, uh, he said that he could detect underground tunnels and gold deposits with it. All right. Now that by itself had been a matter of, or it has been a matter of debate if it was actually used, or if it was actually uh, if it worked. Okay. Now I've had my opinions on that, considering a lot of the breakthroughs that they've uh, had when it comes to archaeology. Now they have a device which, lo and behold, guess what? Can be moved across the ground with wheels and does the same exact thing that what what his radio X-ray does. You know, that was back in the 1930s. Don't get me wrong, but it seems odd that he claimed to have a device that they have now today in today's world. So that kind of makes me wonder if maybe it did exist, or if it, you know, or if it didn't. I mean, there's a lot of controversy about it. Now, before I get into this, I want to let everybody know that um, this story has a lot of controversy. A lot of people have just flat out called him a hoax. Um, some people believe him. A lot of people actually believe what he said. It inspired a lot of people to go further in this topic. Um, but going through and gathering this information, I had to edit out a lot of this stuff because, you know, I don't feel that I need to put anything on that degrades or berates anybody. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to prevent a story or present a story to you. If you agree with it, fine. If you don't agree with it, fine. You know what I mean? Just don't be a dick about it. You know what I mean? It's cool to have your own opinions on something, but just don't be that person. Is all I ask. You know what I'm saying? Now, he asserted that he had developed a device called the X-ray, the radio X-ray, which he believed could detect underground tunnels and gold, like I said before. Now, um, after that, Sheffield ended up passing away in November, on November the 7th in 1957. He was in Los Angeles, California. He was 71 years old, and he was laid to rest at Valhalla Memorial Park in North Hollywood, Los Angeles. Now, while specific details about his later life are limited, genealogical records does provide a framework of his personal history, which included his family's background, his marriage, um, you know, personal endeavors, and then his final resting place. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because, like, you start hearing the story, and it even gets to the point where it's hard to believe that this guy actually existed. Like, was he real, or was he just like a fictional person that somebody, you know, said, "My name's George Sheffield," you know, and then he just created this elaborate hoax. So what I did is I actually checked it out, and yes, he did exist. This man was real. He wasn't. It wasn't. He didn't make a phony name to um, you know, create a hoax and be a con man, basically. So I do know that much. Now George Sheffield's theory about the reptilian civilization beneath Los Angeles, like I said, emerged in the early 1930s. His claim revolved around an ancient race that he called the lizard people, whom he believed had built this elaborate underground city thousands of years ago to escape a catastrophic event. Now, Sheffield claimed that he was led to the legend by an unnamed Hopi or Apache elder it all depends on what version of the story you've heard, and this elder, um, who told him of the ancient race of reptilian beings that had once lived beneath the surface of what's now Los Angeles. Um, uh, he I've heard different stories about it. I've heard that it was an unnamed Indian, but then I've also heard that it was a person. Like they actually knew the name of the person, but they couldn't figure out where he was or where he was located. Um, but anyhow, this Apache or Hopi elder told them of an ancient race of reptilian beings that had once lived beneath the surface of what is now Los Angeles, basically. This civilization was said to have been really, really intelligent and highly advanced and technologically superior to any known ancient human civilization. Okay. Now, that story, from what the story is now, has changed somewhat according to like I said, whichever version of the story you've heard from, because some people make it out like they're like just reptilians that live down under the ground and come up out of the sewers and abduct you and humans and take them down into the ground for food. There's some that believe that they're aliens. Some of them that believe that they're they're not physical beings, like they can actually go between dimensions and stuff like that. So you have different versions of what reptoids are. You know what I mean? Just to kind of put that out there. That way you understand there are different kind of versions of this story. Now, some people still believe that they're highly advanced, and some people still believe that they're basically creatures that come up out of the ground and eat you. So just remember that too. Now, according to Sheffield's version, 5,000 years ago, a great cataclysm, possibly a meteor shower or a volcano eruption, rained fire over the region, which forced these beings to construct vast subterranean tunnels and channels to protect themselves. Now, these tunnels allegedly extend for miles beneath the modern day streets of Los Angeles. And there's even stories that it goes even farther beyond Los Angeles into other areas of that region as well, which I will get to here in a little bit. But first, I do want to mention that Sheffield, or point out too, that he was a mining engineer, and he claimed to have developed a device called the radio X-ray machine. Before I get into all the other stuff, I do want to talk about this machine because he asserted this device could detect underground structures, gold deposits, and even unknown tunnel systems. Using this technology, he was supposed to have mapped out an extensive network of tunnels beneath Los Angeles, and they were supposed to stretch from Mount Washington to Southwest Washington to like the Southwest Museum to downtown Los Angeles, and then it's supposed to extend towards the ocean near Santa Monica. So this is how elaborate he was saying that these tunnels were right there in Los Angeles. The most intricate portion of the subterranean network he claimed it laid beneath Fort Moore Hill in present-day downtown LA. Sheffield also made claims that it went possibly all the way to Mount Shasta. So this is something that well, if you know anything about California, Mount Shasta is quite a bit of ways away from Los Angeles County. So just to let you kind of know there. Now, Sheffield and his supporters believe that these underground tunnels contained hidden gold deposits. They also were supposed to have lost records and other ancient artifacts that were left behind by these lizard people. Now, he hypothesized that their civilization had an advanced system of smelting gold and storing it in vast vaults, which his machine was able to detect. Now, the thing of it is, he even eventually obtained permission from the city of Los Angeles in 1934 to excavate or to do excavations, hoping to uncover like proof of the underground city. But eventually, the excavations fell through. Okay, they stopped, and his efforts never like yielded any concrete evidence. Eventually, the project was abandoned. Basically, not long after the project was discontinued, Sheffield just basically faded into obscurity, and details surrounding his personal life became difficult to trace. Now, while there is genealogical records that confirm his death in 1957, he did just seemingly vanish from public records before that, and that led to a lot of speculation about what happened to him and why his excavation efforts were never completed. To this day, I don't think they really have said why they stopped the excavation of it, because some people say they ran out of money. Some people say that the city said it wasn't worth it, that whatever, but they really never had any conclusive reason for why these excavations stopped. They just stopped, or they were never completed, So that is something that is interesting about the whole subject. That's something that I notice a lot of people don't really point out either, is the fact, okay, this and that, whatever, you can talk about it. But the point is nobody really knows. There's nothing that's stated why these excavations stopped. It's just speculation on why they stopped. They're like, well, it didn't pan out, so that was never said. So that's something I think is interesting to bring up. You know what I mean? Now, the thing that I want to get into too is besides that fact, is like the conspiracy and stuff like that drew up around it and things of that nature. So I'm also going to be talking about that, as well as the lizard people and things of that nature, and I'll get into a little bit about the tunnel systems and what he actually said the tunnel systems were like, because I did like this story, so I did pull up quite a bit of evidence about it. I wanted to move on to this topic too, away from what I was doing, because this is strange stories, you know what I mean? And a lot of the stuff that I was presenting earlier was a lot of historian stuff, and I have ancient mysteries, so this was the one that I thought would be good after going into what I was doing with the Naga and stuff of that nature. I figured this would be the next logical step to do the reptoids. So with that being said, I'll continue. Now, despite the lack of physical evidence, the lizard people legend endured. It gained traction, and I mean a lot of traction, especially among the conspiracy theorists and and the paranormal enthusiasts. Now, over the years, it's been linked to other reptilian theories, um, including those involving shape-shifting extraterrestrials and global elitists. Now, with that, you can easily guess who I'm getting ready to talk about. It's David Icke, of course, because who's the king of the shape-shifting reptiles, reptoids? It would be David Icke. So, except for he didn't call them reptoids. Now, some modern urban explorers claim that Los Angeles does have a hidden network of tunnels, but these are generally linked to like old sewage systems, Prohibition era smuggling routes, and Cold War bunkers, rather than an ancient reptilian civilization. Nonetheless, Sheffeld's claims remain one of the earliest American urban legends involving underground reptilian beings. And his radio X-ray machine, it continues to be referenced in alternative archaeological circles. You know, um, People like to call it pseudo archaeology and stuff like that, but I really don't like saying that very much. You know what I mean? So I'll just call it alternative archaeology circles. So now Sheffield's radio X-ray machine was a device he claimed could detect underground tunnels and gold deposits in hidden chambers, like I said. Um, Now, that was by using some form of electromagnetic resonance or radio waves, something of that sort. But the thing of it is, you have to understand there has been no verified scientific explanation providing how it actually worked, and no surviving examples of the device itself exists today. Like nobody knows anything about this. Um, Now with me, I have a tendency of being suspicious even when it's stories like this, like Tesla. Okay, I've mentioned it before with him and his death. Yeah, he was old, but the stories that they say about how he died and how he died poor in a hotel room, penniless, that sounds more shaky to me. You know what I mean? Because the guy was a genius. You're telling me that he couldn't repair, freaking radios for a living so that he can make money for himself. You know what I mean? I mean, come on. And there's just so many other cases like that where the stories don't add up. And this is one of them, you know what I mean? Like the guy's x-ray device just disappears without a trace. So, I mean, just being the devil's advocate, all I'm saying is, what if something was found the excavations halted because they found something that was really, really horrific, and they never wanted it to reach the surface. You know what I mean? So it could be something like that. You just don't know. So I did want to mention that and bring it up. But they say there's no surviving examples of the device that exists today. Now, according to Schaffelt, the machine was composed of the following key components. It had a cylinder chamber that contained a series of dials, gauges, and electronical circuits. It also had metallic probes or sensors that were lowered into the ground. Now, then there was a receiver or a screen that supposedly displayed underground structures as patterns or silhouettes. Now, after that, a tracking system is also something that he claimed he had that could trace the path of tunnels beneath the ground. So it's kind of interesting. Like I said, back then, I know it was back in the 1930s, but now archaeologists have tools like that they can use today for tracing or finding out where there's archaeological finds under the ground without actually having to dig it up. They use them all the time. You can see them in crap loads of documentaries. So that's something that I noticed whenever I went through this. So it could be some type of lost technology that or stolen technology that people aren't or wasn't supposed to know about until here recently, within the near future, or near past, whatever you want to call it. But I do find that that's kind of odd, and I have a habit of looking at things like that, and I know that a lot of people don't look at things in the way I do, because like when it comes to like ancient history, for example, I love ancient history, and when I'm reading about ancient history, I don't think of things in today's mindset. For some reason, I put myself back there in that time period, and I think this is how they lived, and I actually can understand that and relate to it. You know what I mean? And it's just like back in the 1930s. Like these people didn't live the same way we did. They didn't have the things we did. You know, like this groundbreaking technology that has dials and gauges and electronical circuits that could go across the surface of the ground with a receiver and a screen that could display it underground tunnels and stuff. That was just unthinkable back then. But today, it's no big deal. So, I mean, I know that that's probably just me talking, but that's just the way I've always been about it. I've always been interested in stuff like that. Now, Sheffield never fully explained the scientific principles behind his machine. He suggested that it worked by detecting energy signatures, possibly based on residual radiation or magnetic waves emitted by underground objects. He claimed that it could penetrate miles below the Earth's surface too, allowing him to create detailed maps of these hidden structures. Now, one of the most unusual aspects of the device was its supposed ability to detect gold deposits at really great depths under the ground. Now, Sheffield believed that the gold emitted like a unique frequency of energy, or like an energy field that his machine could pick up. This is what led him to claim that the underground city of these lizard people contained like vast vaults of gold. And he created several hand-drawn maps based on the readings from the device, supposedly. And it was supposed to be showing an extensive underground city with like multiple rooms and passageways and gold repositories. And these were all supposed to be beneath Los Angeles. Now, despite all these claims, no known scientists or engineers were ever able to verify that the radio X-ray machine actually worked. There's also no record of any patents. There's no technical blueprints. There's not even like peer review studies associated with the device. After Sheffield's excavation efforts were abandoned, his radio X-ray machine disappeared from public record. No known examples of it exists today. and it remains one of the more mysterious aspects of his legend. And I agree. When I first heard about this machine, I was just as fascinated with the machine as what I was with the underground passages too. You know what I mean? So that was one thing that really did stick out to me when it comes to that. I need to actually get my uh, got to get my streams back to where they need to be as well, because I just realized that the chat for Beam wasn't available to where I could see it. All right. Now, the chats are open if you guys want to make a comment about what the topic is. I am reading them. I'm able to read them too. So um, I'll come in and I will check these chats out as I go. So, and I can also see the chat for Rumble and I believe maybe, yeah, no, for Rumble, Twitch, and Kick, I believe I can see on my Beam stream. So that's weird saying that. But anyhow, if you guys want to leave comments and stuff, I would be more than happy to talk to you. So now, the thing about it is, it does remain one of the more mysterious aspects of the legend. Now, while his maps and some photographs of his excavation site have survived, the machine itself remains an enigma, basically. It left more questions than answers, in my opinion. So, with that, I wanted to kind of go over Fort Moorhill. Now, this is basically right around in the downtown Los Angeles area. I don't suggest that anybody ever go to the downtown Los Angeles area, because I've had a past history of drugs and alcohol. And I actually had the privilege of spending time there homeless. And I'll tell you right now, that is not the place where you want to go. That is not the place where you would want to imagine reptoids under the ground, dude, while you're homeless on the streets with the drug and alcohol problem. Trust me, it's not good. So let me just leave it at that, and I'll continue with it. Now, Fort Moorhill was once a prominent elevation in downtown Los Angeles, and it has a rich history which is intertwined with the city's development. It was established during the Mexican-American War. The fortification was constructed by U.S. troops to secure the area after the capture of Los Angeles in 1847. Now, over time, the hill became a significant landmark. It hosted various structures and served as a residential area. Now, in the early 20th century, as Los Angeles began to expand, Fort Moorhill was seen as more of an obstacle to like urban development and everything. Now, to facilitate growth and improve transportation, the city undertook a lot of projects to modify the landscape. Now, in 1901, the Broadway Tunnel was constructed beneath the hill, which connected Temple Street to what is now Cesar Chavez Boulevard. Now, this tunnel aimed to ease congestion and improve access between different parts of the city. Now, regarding subterranean features, the Broadway Tunnel is a documented example of infrastructure below Fort Moorhill. Now, additionally, in 1933, Warren Sheffield claimed to have discovered an extensive network. You need to realize that too. Now, he believed that they were like remnants of the ancient civilizations that he referred to as the lizard people, basically, is what it is. And we just talked about like the radio X-ray. So he had made that claim, but his excavation didn't yield any evidence at all whatsoever. Now, beyond the Broadway Tunnel, um, there's been no substantial evidence of other tunnels, caves, or subterranean pathways under Fort Moore Hill. That's the only thing that they found there, and that was the Broadway Tunnel, and that's it. Now, the hill itself it also underwent significant alterations, including partial excavation and grading, to accommodate the city's growth. Now, today the area is marked by Fort Moore Pioneer Memorial, which commemorates its historical significance and stuff like that. But that is basically the only tunnels that they claim is there is the Broadway Tunnel. Now, the thing I want to really get into now is the catastrophe and everything. The catastrophe that was supposed to have happened. Now, Sheffield's theory about the lizard people in their underground city beneath Los Angeles, it regarded a great catastrophe that forced an ancient civilization underground, right? So the story was reported in the Los Angeles Times on January the 29th, 1934. And it presented like a fascinating legend for people about a firestorm or meteor shower or something like that devastated the surface world. And this was supposed to be in ancient times. And see, back then, people jumped on that. They loved stories like that. Like Mark Twain, Huckleberry Finn, all of that. I mean, people love that. People don't even know that Mark Twain or Samuel Clemens was notorious for stuff like this. Like, he would go from town to town because he was usually getting chased out of one town to the next one because he would write outlandish stuff that would just grab people's attention, and that was something that people loved. They loved hearing these stories, and they would go nuts over them. So you had that going on too. You know what I mean? And one day in Los Angeles on July the 29th, 1934, here came this story out of the Los Angeles Times. This legend about a firestorm and meteor shower that just devastated everything on the surface of the planet way back in ancient times. So you can tell, you know that a lot of people were pretty fascinated by that. Now, according to the legend that was told by Sheffield, who claimed to have received the information from a Hopi elder, okay, and yeah, the guy's name was Chief Little Greenleaf. A great firestorm or meteor shower was supposed to have devastated the surface world, which was supposed to have happened thousands of years ago. This calamity, according to the tale, either resulted from cosmic events or a war involving advanced weaponry, according to some. Now, they start talking, and this starts getting into the whole thing about Atlantis and Mu or Lemuria. Well, see, I believe that Mu and Lemuria were two separate areas. I don't believe there's some people who believe that they were the same, but I believe that Lemuria and Mu were originally supposed to be two separate spots. But right here is where you start getting into the Atlanteans at war with the Lemurians, and that is where the advanced weaponry comes from. And I had just finished up on what we were talking about with that on everything about aliens. If you guys are interested in checking that out, me and Austin, Todd, and Mr. Robot uh, did a little bit on that. So we've got a playlist on YouTube. If you guys want to check that out, just go to The Wonderful World of Weirdness and check out the playlist, and you'll see everything about aliens. And that'll have all that information in there if you want to see it. It's pretty interesting. It goes back into old Hindu beliefs and religions. It talks about underground caverns, underground worlds, things of that nature. So, now the legend suggests that a massive meteor shower or comet impact ignited vast fires across the land, turning the entire region into inhabitable wastelands. Now, this disaster led to a great loss of life among surface dwellers, which forced the survivors to seek refuge underground. Another version of the legend also hints at a war between civilizations where one faction unleashed devastating weapons that set the world ablaze. Um, you, I've heard different stories to that. Lemuria was supposed to have been real close to Earth in the way things worked with nature, and they would attack the Atlanteans, which is what caused Atlantis to sink into the ocean. But the Atlanteans had devastating weapons as well, and a lot of stuff relating to the Hindus' belief systems also uh, indicate powerful weapons of the gods, and they are what is believed is going on there with the Atlanteans and a few other factions. But that's all, like I said, in the uh, Everything About Aliens series. So that's where all this is. I just wanted to skim across it, and I ended up running my mouth and saying more than what I really wanted to let out, you know. But that's basically the gist of it, where all of that comes from. Now, the destruction was described as far-reaching flames resembling a nuclear inferno. Okay. This is supposed to have scorched the earth and made it impossible for life to continue on the surface. Now, this also goes according to ancient Indian folklore as well. Now, according to the story, a race of highly intelligent reptilian humanoid beings who were referred to as the lizard people foresaw this disaster, and they built a massive underground city beneath what is now Los Angeles, as well as beneath other parts of the American Southwest. Now, the city was allegedly constructed using advanced engineering and chemical techniques that allowed them to melt rock and carve out vast chambers and tunnels. Now, these underground structures were designed to protect against the firestorm and that ravaged the surface world. Now, the tunnels and chambers were said to have stretched for miles beneath Los Angeles, extending from Fort Moore Hill to Mount Washington and even beyond. Now, some interpretations of the story suggest that golden tablets containing knowledge of this lost civilization were stored deep within these subterranean chambers too. Um, Now, one of the most intriguing aspects of Sheffeld's theory was that the lizard people supposedly left behind these golden records. There were thin sheets of gold engraved with ancient knowledge, astronomical records, and a lost history. Now, these records, according to legend, would reveal the true origins of humanity, the great catastrophe, and the secrets of the cosmos. Now, Sheffield believed that these golden tablets, which are buried in the vaults, or were buried in the vaults, um, were the key to unlocking the mysteries of this lost civilization. Now, some researchers speculate that the story might have been loosely based on like Hopi and Zuni and other Native American myths that also describe an ancient race retreating underground due to this great catastrophe. Now, what they're meaning by that is the Hopi legends speak of the time when their ancestors sought refuge underground to escape a cataclysm. Yeah, but they were guided by a race of underground dwelling beings that were ants. Now, after gaining attention in 1934, Sheffield's excavations at Fort Moore Hill abruptly ceased. There was no evidence of tunnels, golden tablets, or reptilian humanoids uncovered. Soon after, he just vanished from public records. And that, like I said, led to speculation that he either abandoned his project, uh, maybe he faced legal issues, or perhaps he was forced to stop his work by some unknown parties. You never know. It could have been any of those things altogether. Now, Sheffield supposedly mapped the underground city beneath Los Angeles, which he claimed had been uncovered through his use of the radio X-ray device. Now, this is one of the most interesting aspects of his theory, okay, about the lizard people. The maps was said to reveal like this complex network of tunnels and chambers. And this was supposed to have been designed by an ancient race of reptilian humanoids, and it was supposed to stretch under the city. Now, the maps allegedly depicted a vast subterranean city which he described as being highly organized and strategically constructed. It was said to be several hundred feet below the surface of Los Angeles, too. So this is like several hundred feet below the surface of Los Angeles, with like intricate systems of tunnels and chambers and vaults that were designed to protect the ancient inhabitants from this catastrophe, this firestorm or meteor shower that was supposed to have decimated the surface world. Now, the main tunnels in Sheffield's map were said to run east to west, with each one stretching for miles beneath the city. The tunnels were described as wide enough for carts and large machinery to pass through, indicating a high level of engineering sophistication. Now, the tunnels followed a mostly straight path, though there were sections that where they turned like sharply, and they possibly led to like different sections of the underground complex. Now, the tunnels weren't just functional; they were also, but they also included elaborate architectural features, such as arched ceilings, intricate carvings, and even spaces marked as temple or ritualistic areas. Now, one of the most important features of the map was a central vault, believed to be located in a large chamber beneath Fort Moore Hill, a prominent location in Los Angeles, too, by the way, which is downtown. Now, Sheffield believed that this chamber contained golden tablets, the golden tablets I was referring to, And these tablets held knowledge of the ancient lizard people. Now, the vault was reportedly buried deep underground, possibly around 500 feet below the surface, with the entrance to it being protected by elaborate defenses, including dead ends and false passages meant to confuse intruders. The directional layout of this vault led to multiple rooms, some said to have advanced technology or mysterious artifacts. The map also depicted numerous branching tunnels that extended out from the central vault, each one leading to different parts of the underground city. Now, these tunnels were reported to be narrower than the main passageway, but still wide enough to be navigated. Now, some of these branching tunnels supposedly led to other chambers, some of which were believed to have been used for storage or ritualistic purposes as well, and others to residential areas where the reptilian inhabitants lived. Now, Sheffield described finding hidden passageways that led to areas not marked on any conventional maps. Now, these areas were supposed to be part of a secretive inner sanctum used by the ruling elites or the priests of the underground civilization. These chambers were said to contain unusual artifacts too, such as strange statues, ancient relics, or possibly even preserved bodies of the reptilian beings themselves. There were also mention of secret routes possibly leading to the surface, exits and stuff like that. That the ancient inhabitants would use in case of emergencies or to escape surface level dangers, things of that nature. Now, Sheffield also reported about the scientific directions of, specific directions of the tunnels, and their exact measurements were detailed but somewhat inconsistent. They were based on description. No, they were based on his descriptions. Based on his descriptions, the underground city had sections aligned to cardinal directions, with major tunnels running to four primary directions: north, south, east, and west. Northwest, southeast, and northeast, southwest. Now, this suggests an extremely well-planned and organized network that may have been built with the intention of ease of movement and defense. East to west tunnels were said to be the main thoroughfares, though. They connected the most critical parts of the underground city. Sheffield described how these tunnels led from the central vault, branching off towards other districts or chambers. Now, according to Sheffield, the second tunnels running north and south, or at diagonal angles, were used for service accesses or led to smaller residential areas. Now, these were narrower and more winding, which suggested they were less important than the main thoroughfares. Some passages, Sheffield claimed, ended abruptly, and they were supposed to have false walls or hidden doors, which are supposed to be used or designed to confuse invaders or uninvited guests. Now, these were meant to keep outsiders from finding the most important chambers, supposedly. That's about the best that I've been able to find when it comes to information pertaining to these tunnels. There's a little bit more, but that was what I can tell you is Sheffield was quite specific about the depths of the underground city. He stated that many of the chambers and tunnels were located deep beneath the surface, often several hundred feet, below the earth. He also mentioned that some of the more shallow tunnels were reported to be located at like 100 to 200 feet below the surface. These were said to be closer to the surface and connected to more accessible areas. The most critical tunnels and vaults were supposed to be found like 500 feet or more below ground. Now, these deeper sections were thought to have been designed as secure locations for the ancient artifacts and knowledge tablets that Sheffield sought to uncover and find. A particularly significant section of Sheffield's map was the series of tunnels under Fort Moore Hill. This area, now part of downtown Los Angeles, was supposedly home to the central underground city where the most valuable discoveries awaited. Okay. So according to Sheffield, the main tunnel under Fort Moore Hill was meant to act as the entrance point to the underground world too. From there, explorers could navigate through various branching tunnels that connected to this central vault and other areas of the city. Now, Sheffield claimed that the tunnels ran for miles, connecting Fort Moore Hill with areas around Mount Washington and even further. Though, like I said earlier, no direct evidence of these claims ever emerged. Sheffield's map was not an artifact he physically found. Instead, he used his radio X-ray device, a method that he claimed could detect underground features by sending radio waves into the earth. These waves would bounce back, revealing the presence of underground voids or materials like gold. And I also want to, elaborate more on the Hopis, the Hopi National American tribe, known for their spiritual and rich mythology. They also have a legend that speaks of serpentine reptilian beings, often referred to as serpent gods or snake spirits. Now, these share similarities with themes in other indigenous and ancient mythologies as well, including the Mayan. However, their legend is unique to their own culture. I do have to say that. And they don't describe these beings as the same kind of reptilians as depicted by like modern conspiracy theories, though. Instead, the Hopi speak of like serpent beings in the context of like spiritual and natural forces. Now, the Hopi mythology involved the ant people and snake spirits as like central figures who played a role in the survival and guidance of the Hopi during various ages of the world. Now, the Hopi worldview divides time into different worlds or eras, with each world being destroyed and reborn. Okay. Now, these serpentine beings were thought to have played key roles during these cycles of destruction and creation. So, now in the earliest world, according to the Hopi belief, the snake spirits or the serpent gods came from the sky or underground realms as well. Now, these beings were described as having human-like bodies with features of serpents or reptiles, possessing long, graceful bodies which were covered in scales, and sometimes with feathered serpents. or winged serpents associated with their forms as well. And I'm pretty sure some of you guys will know what that is hinting at. Now, these beings weren't evil, as some might assume, based on later interpretations of serpents in various mythologies. But they were regarded as wise and powerful spiritual entities who possessed great knowledge of the earth and the cosmos. In the Hopi tradition, serpents, particularly the rain serpent, were also symbols of fertility, transformation, and healing as well. Now, during the Hopi's early migration after the First World was destroyed, the Ant people are said to have come to the aid of the Hopi people, guiding them to underground shelters to protect them from the devastation of the world above. Now, in some variations of the Hopi creation story, it's said that the snake spirits also guided the Ant people and were instrumental in leading the Hopi people safely through the chaos of the world's destruction. Now, it's through these underground shelters that the Hopis were preserved, according to their legends. These shelters were described as being deep beneath the Earth's surface, similar to the modern idea of cavernous subterranean realms. Now, the Hopis believe that these beings lived within the earth and watched over them during their migrations and transitions through the world, or through all of the worlds, because they believed that worlds were destroyed and then a new world began. So the Hopis also believed that the snakes' spirits were guardians, sacred knowledge too. These beings were often connected with water, as serpents are traditionally associated with life-giving forces. And in the Hopi worldview, water is considered one of the most important elements that sustains life. The rain snake and the serpent of water were symbols of renewal, vital energy, and natural cycles. Now, the Hopi creation story tells of a time when the serpent gods worked in harmony with the earth's natural forces. This world went through multiple cycles of destruction too, with each era being wiped away by like floods, fire, or other cataclysmic events. After the first world's destruction, the serpents are said to have helped rebuild the earth and the people. They symbolize the restoration of balance, much like how the snake sheds its skin to renew itself. You'll see that in a lot of different cultures worldwide. So it's not just like the Hopi Indians or just the indigenous people of the Americas. It's everywhere. I've been reading like all of these different cultures from way back when, and that's the one thing that they're really big on is life, death, and rebirth. So it's pretty interesting how all of it works out on a world view if you really take a look at it. So according to the Hopis, after the first world was destroyed, the people entered the second world, where they were tested in their ability to live in harmony with the natural world. Now, the serpent gods were still part of this world, and they helped the Hopis navigate their environment, ensuring their survival through a series of trials, basically. Now, the third world, which is the current world according to the Hopi beliefs, is a time of great imbalance in the snake spirit, or the snake spirits. They're said to have become more distant from the Hopi. It's in this world that the serpent beings are said to be in hiding, waiting the day when the Hopi people be ready for their return. So now, in some interpretations, the serpent gods were believed to have retreated underground, becoming a secretive and hidden force, watching over the earth, waiting for the right time to reveal their teachings and wisdom again. This in line with the idea of these beings being guardians of sacred knowledge and the forces of transformation. Now, the Hopis believed that when the time was right, the serpent spirits would reemerge to guide humanity in the next phase of evolution, basically. Serpent imagery has remained an important part of the Hopi culture throughout the centuries, too. The snake dance is one of the most well known aspects of Hopi spiritual rituals, symbolize the connection between the human world and the serpent beings. It emphasizes the spiritual significance of the serpent as a guide and protector. Now, the Hopi and Kachina spirits, many of which represent animals and natural elements, including serpents. Okay. Um, some of these Kachinas are believed to be the embodiment of the snake spirits, coming to the Hopi people in the form of human serpent hybrids, bringing messages of renewal and survival. Uh, Also, the snake dance itself. Uh, the snake dance itself is a sacred ritual in which Hopi men dance with live rattlesnakes. It's believed to be a symbolic act of communication with the snake spirits. The snakes are handled with like great care and reverence, as they represent the vitality of the earth, and the dancers hope that the spirits of the serpents will bring fertility, rain, and balance to the land. Plus, you don't want to get bit by a snake while you're dancing and manhandling them. That's just not cool at all. You know what I mean? So, while the Hopi and the Mayan cultures are distinct in their practices and beliefs, both share a deep reverence for serpent-like beings. Now, in Mayan mythology, serpents are seen as powerful creatures. Okay, um, especially the feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl. He represents wisdom, creation, and life. Similarly, the Hopi serpent gods are connected to life and fertility and the regeneration of the earth. Now, both cultures viewed serpents not as agents of evil, but as symbols of transformation, knowledge, and the balance of the universe. The concept of serpents being tied to water, rain, and fertility also transcends both Hopi and the Mayan mythologies. Um, it marks these creatures as important symbols of the life cycle and mysteries of what's going on here on Earth. So the Hopi Native American legend about reptilian or serpent-like beings is deeply intertwined with themes of transformation, guardianship, and sacred knowledge and cosmic balance. These beings were seen as both protectors and guides during critical moments in history. Uh, they helped the Hopis survive times of destruction and ushered in new cycles of life. Now, while these beings were often serpentine in appearance, they were revered for their spiritual significance rather than feared. Through, well, although their story aligns in certain respects with the Mayan serpent deities like Quetzalcoatl, the Hopi's version is more closely tied to their like cosmological understanding of the world, their relationship to the earth, water, and the natural forces that sustain life. Now, the legends continue uh, to influence the Hopi culture and their practices. Um, they, uh, they, they, they still do the sacred dances and ceremonies as like serpent spirits, and it remains like a powerful symbol of the tribe's ongoing connection to the mysteries of the earth and these serpent gods and stuff. So it's pretty interesting stuff. Uh, Now, after that, I do want to bring up the Snake Brothers. Now, the Snake Brothers are pretty fascinating, um, and they're also lesser known. They're a lesser known part of Native American mythology, particularly among tribes from the southwestern United States, such as the Hopi and the Zuni and the Navajo. Now, the term Snake Brothers refer to a mythological group of spirit beings or deities who are often depicted as serpentine figures with human attributes, or as beings that embody the essence of serpents. Now, these figures are integral to like many ceremonial and spiritual practices, and are generally seen as guardians of sacred knowledge, fertility, and healing. While their stories are very slight, while their stories vary slightly, across different tribes, the central themes are largely consistent. The origin of the Snake Brothers is most strongly tied to creation myths and the early pre-colonial spiritual beliefs in various southwestern tribes. Now, in many ways, the Snake Brothers are depicted as having arrived from the underworld or from the sky, and in some versions, they are described as creators or bringers of life. Like many mythological beings in Native American culture, they represent forces of brilliance, duality, and transformation, which aligns them with the broader archetypes of serpents in world mythology. Now, the Snake Brothers are sometimes depicted as male and female pairs, symbolizing a balance between masculine and feminine energies. This duality is deeply rooted in the Native American understanding of the natural world where opposites work in harmony to sustain life. Now, these brothers often personify nature's cycles, representing life, death, and rebirth in a continual flow. Among tribes like the Hopi, the Snake Brothers are seen as guardians of fertility and rain bringers. In these cultures, the snake is often a symbol of renewal and regeneration. The serpent's ability to shed their skin is a direct metaphor for the earth's ability to regenerate, bringing new life from after periods of dormancy. Now, during sacred rituals and dances, the Snake Brothers are invoked to ensure that the land will be fertile, the crops will thrive, and the rains will come to nourish the earth. In Hopi rituals, for example, rattlesnakes are often used in ceremonies to invoke the Snake Brothers' blessings for fertility and life-giving rains. Now, the Snake Brothers are also viewed as protectors of sacred knowledge. This knowledge often pertains to spiritual wisdom passed down through generations, related to healing practices, natural medicine, in the use of herbs, plants, and rituals for like personal and collective well-being. The Snake Brothers are also seen as spiritual guides who lead individuals or communities even to greater understanding, helping them align with natural rhythms and cosmic laws. Through their teachings, they impart like wisdom about balance, the cycle of life, or the cycles of life, and the need for respect towards nature and the environment. Um, the dual nature of the Snake Brothers is a recurring theme too. On one hand, they are viewed as benevolent figures who bring about life, but on the other hand, they are also associated with dangerous forces, particularly in the form of the rattlesnake or other venomous snakes, which can pose a threat to the unwise or disrespectful. Now, the duality reflects the balance inherent in nature, a balance between creation and destruction. The Snake Brothers, much like other serpent deities, can represent the forces of life and death, showing that death is an essential part of the life cycle, necessary for renewal uh, and stuff like that. Now, in several Native American tribes, snakes are associated with healing too. The Snake Brothers are believed to hold powerful knowledge of herbalism and medicine. They're thought to be no, they're thought to possess the ability to heal illnesses and restore balance to those who are ill or troubled. Now, the process of healing often ties into the broader theme of transformation, as the Snake Brothers' ability to shed their skin is a metaphor for the shedding of old negative energy and pain in order to regenerate and heal. In this way, the Snake Brothers also serve as symbols for personal transformation, teaching individuals the importance of change and the necessity of adapting to the shifting currents of life. Now, through stories, well, actually, stories of the Snake Brothers um, uh, vary widely. Okay, now that depending on the specific Native American tribe. Now, some common motifs and legends have emerged over time, though. One prominent story from Hopi mythology speaks of the Snake Brothers coming down from the heavens to create the first humans. Now, according to this legend, they were the first beings to bring life to the barren earth, okay, and to teach the early humans how to live in harmony with the land. They gave the people the knowledge of agriculture, teaching them how to grow crops and live sustainably on the earth. The brothers were also guardians of sacred places, often guarding like secret sites where life was said to have been created or where spiritual energy resided. Now, these sacred sites were usually caves or underground chambers where the Snake Brothers could be found in their true form. Uh, a giant, no, as giant serpents or humanoid serpents, often possessing supernatural powers, usually. Now, in some Navajo stories, the Snake Brothers are believed to reside in the underworld. Uh, they are said to guard the passages between the physical world and the spiritual realms. And only those who are pure of heart are able to enter their domain. Now, this domain is often described as a cavernous underground world, which is filled with mystical energy and It's where the Snake Brothers keep watch over the spiritual essence of the earth, basically. Now, in these stories, the Snake Brothers sometimes act as gatekeepers to watch the afterlife, ensuring that those who pass into the next world do so with proper respect and understanding of the forces of nature. Now, the underworld is not seen as a place of torment, but as a realm of transformation where souls undergo a process of purification before being reborn in a new form. Um, in another common theme across various tribes, the Snake Brothers serve as mentors or advisors to heroes on their spiritual journeys. These heroes might seek out the Snake Brothers to obtain wisdom or guidance or power that'll help them overcome challenges. Now, must, uh, the heroes must often undergo a series of trials before they can gain the favor of the Snake Brothers, of course, and learn the deep mysteries of nature and the universe. Now, one such legend tells of a young warrior who, in his quest to gain wisdom and strength, had to face the Snake Brothers in a ritual of courage. Now, the warrior had to prove his worth by overcoming fear and showing respect to the serpents. If he was successful, he was granted knowledge. He would have been granted knowledge that helped him protect his people and bring balance to the natural world. Things like that. Now, with that being said, I want to get back to G. Warren Sheffield. Um, his work focused primarily on the idea of an underground civilization beneath Los Angeles. And like I said, he attributed it to an ancient race of beings that he called the lizard people. Now, his theory suggested that these beings were an advanced and highly intelligent civilization that predated modern humans, that they had established subterranean cities and complex networks beneath the surface. You know, Sheffield's lizard people theory came to prominence back in the 1930s, though it is important to note that the evidence he presented was largely speculative, uh, and it hasn't been widely accepted or verified by any mainstream historians or archaeologists. All right. And trust me when I say I've cleaned a lot of this up because, like I said, I don't want to make this anything where it's, uh, berating anybody because of what they believed. I don't want to try to assume that this guy was legit or if he was just trying to cause a hoax or anything. I presented a bit of information there about the background of the story when it comes to the reptoids and things of that nature. You know what I mean? Um, so it actually kind of does fit in with like the Hopi and the Navajo beliefs. And I when I first heard about it, it was the ant people. You know what I mean? The reptoids, not so much, but the ant people I do know about. Um, I I have heard stories about the about the reptoids when it comes to Mount Shasta and areas like that, and entrance ways into the underworld with Agartha and things of that nature, and the Guardians, Garcians. So that's for another story, though. So now, his claims primarily emerged from his alleged discoveries using a radio X-ray device that he had invented. This device was intended to map underground formations and it was said to have detected tunnels in cities beneath Los Angeles that, according to Shutfeld, were not naturally occurring, but were man-made, potentially built by this ancient underground civilization. So Sheffield believed that the lizard people had fled into the underground uh, in the aftermath of a catastrophic event, such as a meteor shower or some form of global disaster. This idea aligns with his narrative that the surface world had been devastated by some kind of cosmic event, which forced this advanced race to retreat into the earth for survival. His theory about the lizard people seems to have been influenced by ideas of lost civilizations such as Atlantis, which I'd given you a brief discussion of. And he proposed that these underground dwellers had an advanced understanding of technology, including engineering, astronomy, and even the use of radio waves. Now, as for the lizard people's historical records, Sheffield did not provide any substantial evidence or direct quotes from any written documents that he claimed to have discovered. However, he spoke in vague terms about like ancient records that he believed were left behind by the lizard people. He suggested that these records were encoded in the structure of the underground cities, or the underground city, I should say, perhaps in the form of like hieroglyphs or carvings or symbols hidden deep within the cavern or tunnel beneath Los Angeles. So Sheffield claimed that the lizard people were not only technologically advanced but also spiritually sophisticated too. He speculated that their society was highly organized and hierarchical, with each member of the civilization playing a specific role within the structure. He proposed that they had masters who were possibly priests or spiritual leaders, and that the entire civilization was based on deep understandings of both science and spirituality. The lizard people, according to Shufelt, were said to have possessed an advanced system of knowledge, um, which, like I said, included astrology and mathematics as well. I don't want to leave that out. That helped them like navigate and map the stars and Earth and the surrounding regions. Now, Sheffield also suggested that the lizard people had knowledge of highly advanced cosmology, which might have included concepts about Earth's magnetic field, cosmic events, and the natural forces that govern the universe. His accounts of the catastrophic event that drove the lizard people underground is a pivotal element in his theory too. He described the event as a firestorm or meteor shower that devastated the surface of the world. This cataclysmic event, according to Sheffield, wiped out the vast majority of the lizard people's surface civilization, which forced them to retreat underground for survival. Now, the meteor shower or firestorm theory seems to be inspired by like various myths and theories about global cataclysms, including the stories of Atlantis and other ancient lost civilizations that were supposedly wiped out by natural disasters or cosmic events. Now, Schaffelt's theory borrows from these mythological and uh, uh, very fringe ideas, placing the destruction of the lizard people's civilization in a historical context that might have occurred thousands or even 10,000s of years ago. Um, Sheffield's map of the underground city was the most specific aspect of his claims. He described the city as a vast network of tunnels, chambers, and underground buildings that stretch beneath modern day Los Angeles. Okay. Now, these tunnels were said to be well organized, with many of them forming complex shapes and patterns, too. According to Sheffield's theory, the lizard people had constructed their underground city with precision. All right. And he believed that the tunnels followed certain astronomical alignments, too, and were used for purposes related to spiritual rituals, shelter, and social organization. Now, uh, Sheffield suggested that these underground chambers might have also been used as both like living spaces and as places where the lizard people conducted scientific or spiritual work. Interesting, Sheffield is also claimed that he had located a keyhole-shaped structure within the underground city that might have been a main temple or spiritual center of the lizard people. He speculated that this area was the hub of the ancient civilization's knowledge and might have contained the records or books that chronicled their history, technology, and their beliefs. Now, the term lizard people itself seems to be a misinterpretation or even a simplification of the more mystical and symbolic figures uh, that Sheffield encountered in the mythological and folklore traditions. Now, the idea of serpentine beings or reptilian gods is not unique to Sheffield, and it can be found in many cultures, including ancient Mesopotamia, Mesoamerica, and Egyptian mythology. Um, these cultures often depicted serpents or reptilian figures as being of great wisdom, power, and mystery, and associated with both creation and destruction. So, with that being said, I also want to say that it's unclear whether Sheffield intentionally linked the ancient race of underground dwellers to reptilians or serpentine symbolism for dramatic effect, or whether he generally believed in the existence of a reptilian species. Some have argued that he may have been influenced by the prevailing interests of like mysticism and occultism that was going on during his time. And I mean, it's still around, but not like it was back then in the 1930s. It was really, really deep back then. So, um, now this was often associated uh, with the serpents, and it associated the serpents with like ancient wisdom and hidden knowledge, which was really prevalent back then. Like I said. Um, Sheffield's theory about the lizard people, it has remained an intriguing part of uh, French history and alternative archaeology for from then until now. While his claims have uh, been widely dismissed by the scientific community, his work contributed to the growth of urban legends and conspiracy theories about underground civilizations and reptilian extraterrestrials. Now, over time, Sheffield's theories began to intertwine with those of like modern conspiracy theorists who expanded upon the idea of reptilian or overlords that controlled the earth, or beings connected to extraterrestrial beings. So um, that's a thing that you need to think. Now, although there's no solid evidence supporting Sheffield's specific claims, the lizard people theory persists. basically, in our popular culture today. So it's been incorporated into various conspiracies. A lot of science fiction stories too, and ufology. I mean, it's everywhere in ufology. Now, the idea of reptilians beings living beneath the earth has basically become a fixture in conspiracy theory. Um, Conspiracy theory lore is probably the best way of saying it. Excuse me, burping. Now, that sometimes is connected to ideas about like secret governments, alien interventions, and even the existence of like a global elite. That's something David Icke is really a well-known figure in. Uh, like him and conspiracy theory communities and his theories, um, all of it has inspired like a large number of followers who share his views of the existence of the reptilian extraterrestrials and their control over human affairs. Ike's ideas are often seen as unconventional or controversial, but they found a niche audience though. I mean, many of his followers embrace his theories as a way of understanding what they perceive as a hidden or secret world. You know what I mean? Like, and they just believe it 100%. Now, I will say that since he's gotten older, he's not talking about the reptilians as much as what he used to. But I really wish he would start talking about the reptilians more now, because like these days, it seems like he's more stuck in DMT world, and holding hands and singing "Kumbaya" and love, peace, and all that stuff, and 5G. And I remember him as being, the guy who talked about, the reptilians, and how the royal family were all reptiles, and hidden shapeshifters that were elitists that were taking over the world. So I don't get too many chances to talk about David Icke, so this is my chance to actually say a few words about it. Now, Ike's central thesis revolves around the idea that reptilian beings, or reptiloids, however you want to say it, are shape-shifting extraterrestrials that have infiltrated Earth's ruling elite, controlling world events, governments, and institutions. He believes that reptilian beings have been in positions of power for millennia, manipulating humanity for their own purposes. Um, some of his followers expand upon these ideas with their own interpretations, often blending Ike's ideas with other conspiracies or mystical beliefs. And there's a few examples of other people that are involved too. Like there's Alex Newald, who is one of the individuals who has publicly expressed his belief in Ike's reptilian theories. Now, he claims to have had a personal encounter with extraterrestrials in the 1980s while living in New Zealand. Now, Newald's account revolves around his experience of being abducted by alien beings and taken aboard a spaceship, where he was allegedly shown images and information about Earth's ancient history. Now, Newald's theory, while similar to Ike's, focuses more on the idea of a spiritual awakening and the need for humanity to understand and break free from the control of these reptilian beings. He believes that these entities have influenced human history by guiding rulers and leaders, controlling the flow of information, and suppressing spiritual evolution. After him, you have Richard D. Hall. And Richard D. Hall is a British researcher and writer who has expressed support for Ike's theories as well. His theories about the reptilian agenda. He's produced a range of videos, articles, and talks discussing how reptilian beings are allegedly involved in human governance, media manipulation, and also mind control. Now, Hall, like many of Ike's followers, delves into the idea of hidden powers behind world events, suggesting that there is a dark elite who are not only influenced by extraterrestrial entities, but may even be shape-shifting reptilian hybrids themselves. Now, his work often focuses on exposing those covert influences and advocating for public awareness. Now, after him, you have Max Egan. And Max Egan is an Australian researcher also and a public speaker who has voiced support for many of the same ideas promoted by Ike. He believes that humanity is controlled by a hidden agenda, which includes reptilian beings pulling the strings of power from behind the scenes. Now, Egan focuses heavily on the idea that the human race has been subject to a long history of manipulation, with key events such as wars and economic collapse being orchestrated to maintain the power of the global elite. Now, his work is deeply rooted in anti-authoritarian sentiments, as he advocates for a more natural and spiritually aware existence free from the control of these extraterrestrial influences. Okay, so after that, we come to Kathy O'Brien. Kathy O'Brien is a whistleblower who is claimed to have been subjected to government mind control programs. Control programs known as MK Ultra, which I've mentioned before on a few of my previous episodes and on other people's shows. But MK Ultra, which she allegedly claims involved her being manipulated by powerful figures. Now, O'Brien, whose work ties into the idea of satanic ritual abuse and government-sponsored mind control, suggests that the elite and political figures who are part of these programs are often connected to reptilian extraterrestrials or reptilian hybrid bloodlines. Now, O'Brien's theories about reptilians or reptilian control are deeply intertwined with her experience of government secrecy, trauma, and the idea that certain powerful individuals are not entirely human, but have been genetically manipulated or are operating under the influence of alien beings. Now, with that, we come to Jordan Maxwell. Now, I think Jaffe has had this big misconception of me when it comes to Jordan Maxwell. He thinks that I believe all the stuff Jordan Maxwell says. Don't get me wrong. Just because I've listened to him and stuff does not mean that I believe 100% everything Maxwell says. As a matter of fact, most of the stuff that I've researched about Jordan Maxwell that he says is not accurate whatsoever. What it was with me was I had a conversation with Jeffy before where I'd said, I like to build computers, okay, or fix and repair computers. So there's times where I would be sitting at a computer or repairing computers, and I would be doing it for hours and hours on end, almost days at a time, it seemed like, and in my own little zone and not focusing on anything around me but that computer. And I'd have Maxwell Jordan on the computer behind me playing in a video. And I would hear Maxwell just start saying You know why? You know why? It's because you are stupid. You are stupid. You do not know. And he'd just start ragging on the freaking camera, dude. And I would come out of my trance, dude, and I would just start busting up laughing, you know, because he caught my attention. And that is what I remember mostly about him, you know. And believe it or not, you can say whatever you want to about the man, but the man influenced quite a few people. As a matter of fact, Jordan Maxwell was probably one of the biggest influencers for David Icke, to be honest with you, because um, Maxwell was into a lot of things, man, and you can see uh, that in David Icke with these things that he talked about earlier on when he was talking, you know, things of that nature. So that let me start talking more about Jordan Maxwell. Now, Jordan Maxwell was a researcher in occult and mystical traditions, and he had been an influential figure in the alternative research community. Now, though Maxwell does not explicitly embrace all of Icke's reptilian theories, he is often, or he had often, spoken about the hidden forces behind human history, government, and religion. Now, Maxwell suggested that humanity has been influenced by a secretive elite in esoteric knowledge. Uh, has been uh, influenced by secretive elite in esoteric knowledge. And while he focuses more on symbolism in the occult, many of his ideas intersect with Icke's theories. Maxwell had suggested that powerful ancient forces, which could include extraterrestrial beings or interdimensional entities, had shaped humanity's religious and political systems for centuries. One of the most iconic aspects of Icke's theories is the shape-shifting nature of the reptilian beings. According to Icke and many of his followers, these entities can transform from reptilian form into human-like appearance in order to blend into uh, secret, undetected creatures in society. Now, some believe that these beings are responsible for infiltrating like human power structures, such as governments, media, and corporations, controlling events behind the scenes. Now, the idea that reptilian beings uh, are able to exert control over Earth's leaders, industries, and media, it's a common thread among followers. Many of Ike's supporters believe that a small group of powerful individuals, some of whom may be real reptilians or hybrid creatures, manipulate global events for their own benefit, ensuring that humanity remains under their control. Um, Now, this could involve orchestrating wars, economic crises, or environmental disasters in order to maintain the status quo. Many followers of Ike's theories believe that humanity is on the verge of a spiritual awakening, where people will realize that they are being manipulated by these entities. Now, this awakening is often portrayed as a process of self-discovery, freedom from the control of the reptilian overlords. Some followers view their work as part of a larger cosmic struggle that's supposed to help people wake up from the hidden truths about the world, things of that nature. And like I said, I didn't want to dive too much into the extraterrestrials and the ufology, so I wanted to like skim through it and kind of give you a little bit of an overview of some of the people that are involved, just like a short example of it. These are people who have been inspired, influenced, however you want to call it, by the story that Sheffield and had presented about the reptoids. You know what I mean? This, and don't get me wrong, it does go farther back with the Nagas and the Hindu mythologies, if you want to call it mythologies. I like to call them a religion because they do believe in it. It's not like it's a myth. I don't like even calling dead religions mythologies either, you know, because that's what they did. That it was their religion. It wasn't their mythology. So it's kind of offensive. Um, so with that, I am going to go ahead and end that there. If you guys want to hear more about this, or if you have any comments that you would like to elaborate on that I have said, then go for it. You know, leave something in the comments section so that I can talk to you, because I do mean it when I say it. I love to have conversations in the comment sections. Nobody seems to want to do it. Everybody's like, I don't want to talk to that dude. He's freaking crazy. Especially if you know me, you don't want to talk to me. So I get that. But be brave and leave a comment for me. Let me have a conversation about this stuff with you. Um, if you want to, you can like, subscribe, share, um, everything that they suggest that you do to help a brother out, because a brother's in need. If you want to donate to me, give me some money, dude. I love money. I really do. I haven't had any money from this stuff, and I love it. You know. So, um, with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and thank you for listening. Um, and I hope you enjoyed. And with that, I'm going to end the stream. You guys have a good day. Bye bye.